Namaste. In this clipping, we try and understand some special cases wherein during the short time period or the very long time period, the situation of demand or supply, when it is going to be perfectly inelastic or elastic, and when one factor alone is going to change, what will be the effect on the market price, right? Okay. So, the very short time period or the market time period, you know that supply does not change at all, right? So, during the very short time period, or let us say the market time period, what will be the supply curve like? The supply curve will be vertical, or it will run parallel to the y-axis, indicating that the quantity supply does not change at all, whatever be the price. Remember, it's a very short time period, probably a day. Can production increase in a day? Now, let it be any productive activity, whether it's going to be agriculture or manufacturing or tertiary sector. Fine. It's a very short time period during which the supply cannot change. Fine. So, absolutely there is no change in the supply due to change in the price, or we have a perfectly inelastic supply curve. Alright. Then we have a normal demand curve. So, a normal demand curve which slopes down negatively, indicating the price and the quantity demanded are inversely related. So, look at this. The market equilibrium will be attained at P. Fine. The market equilibrium will be attained at price level OP. Fine. So, let's say E is going to be the initial equilibrium. Fine. Now, even if it is going to be a very short time period, there could be a small change in the demand. Let's say the demand is going to slightly increase. Maybe there is some kind of a promotional offer, right? And due to that promotional offer, there is going to be an increase in the demand in the market. People are willing to buy more, right? So, the demand might increase in the very short time period also due to some kind of an offer. Maybe an alternate product is more attractive compared to the product that the consumers are already consuming. Offer that is given for the alternate product is going to push them to consume more, isn't it? So, in the very short time period, there is very much a possibility that the demand is going to increase. So, the new demand curve is going to become now D1. So, a rightward shift in the demand curve, right, that alone will be responsible for increasing this market price from OP to OP1, right, and the new equilibrium will be attained at E1. So, what's happening here? There is no change, absolutely no change in the supply. It's a perfectly inelastic supply curve. That's what we understand by this vertically sloping supply curve, right? And it is due to increase in the demand alone in this market time period or very short time period that there is an increase in the price. Fine, price alone goes up. Absolutely no change in the quantity that is transacted in the market. Fine, because there is no possibility to increase the supply in that very short time period. Fine. Same way, when there is going to be a reduction in the demand, fine, that can be understood as a leftward shift in the demand curve. So, that would cause a fall in the market price. So, the market price might fall from OP to OP2. Fine. Again, let's understand that's a very short time period. Fine. The supply cannot be quickly taken away from the market. It's there. But then demand changes much more quickly in the very short time period also. You have understood that in the demand theory, isn't it? So, a leftward shift in the demand curve from D to D2 will result in the market price falling. Right? So, what's happening here? In this very short time period, demand happens to be the major influence on the market price. Fine. Again, in production function also you have understood that supply does not change in the short time period or the very short time period, and that is precisely why you have understood that there are two types of inputs, variable inputs and fixed inputs and so on. Yes, yeah, I want you to remember that. Fine. The lesson is in the very short time period supply does not change. So in the market, it would be the change in the demand which would be responsible to bring about the change in the market price. Single market force, namely demand, will be responsible for bringing about the change in the market price in the very short time period. Alright? Yeah. Then, what happens in the very long time period? In the very long time period, the supply can be increased to an infinite extent. There can be a lot of planning that can happen in the very long time period. Whatever fixed assets you want, whatever diversification, expansion you want, you can do it as an entrepreneur. You can plan and arrange for all the factors, so supply becomes completely flexible, right? Supply becomes completely flexible, or supply becomes infinitely elastic, right? So you might have a supply curve which is going to slope parallel to that of your x-axis. Fine. So this is your supply curve, measuring your price over here and the quantity demanded and supplied over here. This supply curve which runs parallel to the x-axis is a long run supply curve. Fine. So we are talking about a long time period, or it is otherwise called as a secular time period. In the long time period or the secular time period, the supply is infinitely elastic. Fine. That is, wherever there is going to be a demand change, supply can simply be matched with that change in the demand. Right? Fine. So, supply curve, it runs parallel. What about demand curve? Demand curve is a normal one. Right? Let's understand demand is a normal one. Alright. So, this is the equilibrium attained when D is the demand and S is the supply curve. The market price could be P and the market output probably is Q. The output that is transacted is probably OQ at OP price. Right? Now, when there is going to be an increase in the demand curve will shift from D to D1. So, due to this shift in the demand, what's happening? At the same price, see, absolutely the supply is completely flexible, infinitely flexible, right? So, that means the increase in the demand is simply matched by this increase in the quantity supply. Fine. So, at a higher level of output and at a constant price, the market equilibrium is determined. Fine. Now, what happens when the demand is going to fall? That can be depicted as leftward shift in the demand curve. D might shift to D2. So, when D is going to shift to D2, what's going to happen again? The quantity transacted will be a lower quantity. Fine. At OQ, probably at a constant price, the market equilibrium is determined. Right? So, these two cases are extreme cases. Fine. When there is absolutely no change in the supply in the very short time period. So, what is this? This is a perfectly inelastic supply. Fine, in the very short time period. And this one is the other extreme. In a very long time period or in the secular time period, when one can plan and change the supply to a very large extent, or when you have a perfectly elastic supply curve is completely flexible. So, this is the outcome in the very long time period or in the secular time period in the market. Fine. Yeah. So these special cases we have discussed. Also, we have discussed the simultaneous changes that happens in the market. Fine. Yeah. As I pointed out earlier on in one of the videos, there are n number of cases. There can be an increase in the demand. Simultaneously, there can be a fall in the supply also. So, one such case alone I will be discussing with you. The rest I leave it to you. Fine? Okay. Now, let's say there is going to be an increase in the demand and simultaneously there is going to be a fall in the supply. What will happen in such a case? What will be the outcome? Fine? One outcome alone. For this, I will discuss and I will show it to you. Fine? Now, starting with the original equilibrium. This is the demand and the original supply curve. The market equilibrium will be attained at P. Okay? And there is an increase in the demand. So, there will be a rightward shift in the demand curve. Yes? D becomes D1, rightward shift. And simultaneously, what's happening? A fall in the supply. Right? So, when there is going to be a fall in the supply curve will shift to the left. Right? So, yeah, look at this. There is a leftward shift in the supply curve. So, the new equilibrium will be attained on the new demand and the new supply curve at E1. So, note this. Note this. New equilibrium will be attained at a higher level of price and at a see, this is the original equilibrium. To the right of the original equilibrium, the new equilibrium will be attained at a higher output level. Fine? Yes? So, this is one outcome when one force is going to change in a positive manner and the other one in a negative manner. That is, demand increases and supply falls. So, here again, multiple chances are there. The increase in the demand can be much more than the fall in the supply. It can be equal, right? Or the other way around, the demand might fall and then the supply might increase. Multiple cases, right? Yes? So, these changes, what do they indicate? They indicate that the market price keeps changing all the time, whatever be the product or the service in reality. That's how we see the market price is not stable at a certain level. Fine? So, that's an understanding. Now, if everything is going to act according to the market forces, not all the time it might benefit the various parties involved, isn't it? Consumers, they put up a demand. Fine? All the time when the price is going to increase, they are not going to be happy. They are not going to be happy. Right? And every time when the price is going to increase, probably the producers or the suppliers, they are going to be happy. But when it's going to fall, they are not going to be happy. Fine? But then the market forces, they say, change in such a fashion that at a single point of time, it could benefit only one. Isn't it? Right? So then, what if the price increase is going to be very, very high and that too for a necessity commodity? Then, who's going to keep tab on that? Why do we have the government? So, that's where the positive role of the government is going to be involved. So, through the government intervention, how the market forces, they can be controlled is what we are going to discuss in the next clipping. Hope you have understood till here. Right? Namaste.